Psychologists have a term you've probably never heard: trauma conditioning. It means your brain can be trained, literally trained, by pain to obey, shrink, or freeze in front of the wrong people. And here's the part most people never realize: someone who understands your wounds better than you do can predict your reactions before you even think. They can guide your decisions without raising their voice. They can influence your choices without lifting a finger. That's how control works: quiet, precise, invisible. And today, I want to help you understand how it happens, why it happens, and how you can take your power back without becoming someone you're not. You deserve to understand this because maybe you've noticed something in your own life. You keep falling into the same painful situations. You find yourself shrinking around certain people. You choose peace even when it costs you pieces of yourself. And deep down, you wonder why it's so hard to say no, why it's so hard to walk away, why it's so easy for people to cross your boundaries. What if the reason isn't weakness? What if the reason is wiring? Trauma doesn't just affect how you feel, it affects how you respond. It affects what you anticipate. It affects your sense of safety. And when someone understands the old pain you carry, even accidentally, they can pull the strings you didn't know were still attached to your past. I'm not here to shame you for that. I'm here to explain it. Most advice tells you to be confident, be firm, set boundaries. But trauma isn't about confidence. Trauma is about predictability. Your brain learns the behaviors that kept you alive. So if pleasing kept you safe, you'll keep pleasing. If staying quiet prevented conflict, silence will become your shield. If walking on eggshells avoided punishment, you'll tiptoe even in rooms where no one is threatening you. This video is about seeing the loops you didn't choose, and more importantly, rewriting them. Let me tell you a story, a metaphor really. A traveler meets a mask maker in a busy marketplace. The mask maker offers protection through identities. Here's a mask for the pleaser, here's one for the caretaker, here's one for the polite one. The traveler puts on mask after mask until they forget their own face. And when other people interact with them, they don't speak to the real person, they speak to the mask. They learn the mask, they learn the vulnerabilities the mask tries to hide. And without even meaning to, they begin pulling the strings attached to that mask. If you're always agreeable, they'll expect your yes. If you avoid conflict, they'll raise their voice. If you fear abandonment, they'll withdraw affection. They're not always villains, they're simply reacting to the masks you've been trained to wear. Here's the first lesson. Trauma teaches predictable safety behaviors. Humans are creatures of survival. When something keeps you safe once, your brain records it. But trauma teaches the lesson too well. Pleasing becomes automatic, avoiding becomes instinctive, reading people's moods becomes a job you never applied for. But what feels like personality may actually be protection. And when protection becomes predictable, control becomes possible. Second lesson, manipulators don't need power, they need your fear. That fear could be fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of disappointment. They don't attack your strengths, they tug at your wounds. They don't have to push hard, they only have to touch what already hurts. And because you want to avoid that hurt, you respond exactly the way they expect. Once someone learns what silence does to you, they can silence you. Once someone learns what anger does to you, they can raise their tone. One learns how much you hate being a burden, they'll sigh just loudly enough and you'll fold. That's how trauma conditioning interacting with emotional manipulation.
Third lesson, emotional memory outruns logical memory. That's why you can know someone is wrong for you and still stay. That's why you can rehearse the perfect comeback in your head, but freeze when faced with conflict. Your nervous system reacts first, then your brain catches up. Trauma lives in your body before it lives in your mind. And so your body makes choices you don't consciously choose. Fourth lesson, trauma teaches you to trust pain more than peace. Chaos becomes familiar, peace becomes suspicious. You wait for the scream that never comes. You prepare for the abandonment that isn't happening. You anticipate the punishment that isn't even possible anymore, so you gravitate toward familiar chaos, not because you like it, but because it feels like home. But familiarity makes you predictable, and predictable people are easier to control. Fifth lesson: strength has a paradox. People who survived trauma are not weak. They're some of the strongest people you'll ever meet. But their strength was built on anticipation, hypervigilance, self-sacrifice. And those strengths can be used against them. Your generosity can be used to drain you. Your loyalty can be used to trap you. Your empathy can be used to silence you. Awareness is what protects you. So how do you break these loops? How do you stop trauma from becoming a roadmap someone else can follow? The first step is naming your script. Ask yourself, am I a pleaser, a fixer, a predictor, a peacekeeper, a freezer? You can't change a script you don't see. Next step, interrupt the automatic obedience. Your brain needs a pause. One breath, one thought, one question. Am I choosing this or avoiding something? Even 1 second of awareness can break years of conditioning. Third step, rebuild safety inside your own body, not through perfection, but through regulation. Slow mornings, quiet breaths, stillness without guilt, gentle routines that tell your system, you're safe now. You don't need to perform for survival. Fourth step, rehearse disobedience. Start small. Say no to things that don't matter. Let someone be slightly disappointed. Let silence exist without rushing to fill it. Teach your brain that disagreement doesn't equal danger. Fifth step, replace familiarity with intentionality. Choose relationships that don't resemble your childhood. Choose people who don't make you afraid to breathe. Choose environments that don't reward your silence. And something beautiful begins to happen. You start meeting the version of you that exists outside of trauma, the one who doesn't whisper, the one who doesn't tiptoe, the one who doesn't apologize for existing. You begin realizing the person people once controlled wasn't the real you. It was the version shaped by fear, and fear is not your identity. You become present instead of programmable, conscious instead of predictable, self-directed instead of controlled. You begin taking up space without checking who you'll upset. You begin choosing yourself without guilt. You begin recognizing manipulation before it hooks into you. You begin living instead of surviving. So, let me leave you with this. You're not broken. You're conditioned. And conditioning can be rewritten. You don't have to fight your past. You only have to understand it. Once you understand it, the strings people used to pull fall away. If this message touched something in you, stay, leave a comment, share your story, or just write one sentence. I'm rewriting my script. And if this helped, like the video, subscribe, and join the people taking their power back one quiet moment at a time. Your healing doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be yours. And it begins now.